Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with my review for Escape at Dannemora, the miniseries on Showtime. Alright, so I just got done seeing Escape at Dannemora, the two-part finale that aired tonight on Showtime. So yeah, I thought I'd come here, give a little bit of a wrap-up of the 8-part miniseries here on the channel. And of course, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the series. If you watched the whole thing, let me know what you thought of this finale and just the whole series in general. Love to hear your thoughts. If you haven't seen it, definitely, I really suggest check it out. Of course, this first portion here will be no spoilers, and then I will get into spoilers later on, and, of course, I will, say when that is. So, anyways, guys, if you like the video, or, if you enjoy it, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. I really would appreciate it. So, anyways, let's get into Escape at Dannemora. So, this one, I'm just going to say right off the bat, for me, this is one of the best TV shows of 2018. And it's a shame that it came at the very end of the year, but nonetheless, it is one of the best series this year for me. Amazing stuff. Really, really enjoyed this series. So this 8-part miniseries is based, of course, on the true story of a prison escape that took place in the state of New York in 2015. The series focuses, or at least this story, focuses around the 3 main players involved, which was Richard Matt, David Sweat, and Joyce Mitchell. And all episodes of the series are directed by Ben Stiller, and the cast includes Benicio del Toro playing Richard Matt, Paul Dano playing David Sweat, Patricia Arquette as Joyce Mitchell, or Joyce Tilly Mitchell as referred to in the show, Eric Lang playing Lyle, who is Joyce's wife, and finally David Morse, who plays Gene, a prison guard that is close to Richard Matt. So, just off the bat, really great cast. Of course, I will talk about that in just a little bit. So, the miniseries really showcases just how crazy this story really was. I mean, at times in the series, you're like, did that really happen, right? Like, this is a hard-to-believe true story. It's one of those, and they do a great job of, making it kind of realistic, but definitely at times you can see just how crazy this is, and just how much of a mystery it still is to this day, even 3 years now after, almost 4, coming after this prison escape and the manhunt that followed it. Still a lot of things unknown, and especially with Joyce Mitchell as well. So we definitely see that in the series. So, of course, at the beginning of the series, we meet the prisoners, Matt and Sweat, and then we also meet Joyce Mitchell pretty early on, right? Who is their boss in the tailor shop where they work at the prison. So, of course, they're already, kind of involved with each other. And as we jump into the story, David Sweat and Joyce Mitchell are definitely involved, right? They already have an ongoing sexual relationship, which would be definitely forbidden for Joyce Mitchell as an employee for the prison, taking part in a sexual relationship with their worker. So that's already forbidden, but that's not quite the extent of what she does, of course. So then, of course, so they already have that relationship, and in comes Richard Matt. So he is already feeling a little bit inspired about escaping, right? Inspired about escaping, and he's already kind of thought of things, right, of how to get out, and he is really picturing himself outside of the walls. And so when he sees Mitchell and Sweat in the relationship that they have, because of course he also works in the tailor shop and witnesses it, he really sees Mitchell as a way out and seems to take advantage of that for sure. And so this is kind of how the whole plan goes into motion, right? And so then through the next several episodes, we see just how the whole thing kind of plays out, and of course how it inevitably ended here with this finale. Alright, so now we're going into spoiler territory. So I do warn you, if you haven't seen the series, I do suggest that you maybe click off now for these spoilers, because if you haven't seen it, you really should watch it, and you are in for a treat. So anyway, so this is the warning. These are spoilers from here on out. So a few things that I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to share my 2 things that I loved about the series and 1 thing I didn't like. So first off is the performances in this series. Incredible. First off, Benicio del Toro as Richard Matt. Amazing performance by Benicio del Toro. Before this series, of course, I've seen him in a couple things before. I think I have seen two of his other projects, and I did not know that he had the kind of the depth that he does, that he at least showed in this series. He was amazing as Richard Matt, especially in these last few episodes, showing just what kind of guy he really is. And that was really brought out when they got outside of the prison, of course, starting in the end of episode 5 even. So really great job there. Patricia Arquette, you can't say enough about her performance as Joyce Mitchell. I would say she probably went through the biggest change. I would say Benicio del Toro and Paul Dano, somewhat similar to, their normal, attitudes and actions. Obviously, they're not prisoners, but you know what I mean. But Patricia Arquette went through quite a change, not just physically, but also with her voice and just her mannerisms and all of that. And she did an amazing job. She got nominated for the Golden Globe, and I have no doubt that she'll get nominated for the Emmy. She definitely deserves it. Really great performance by Patricia Arquette as well. And then we get to Paul Dano. He was great too. I mean, he hasn't been in too many big things before this one, but he might after this, because his performance as David Sweat was really great. It was more of just kind of a straight and narrow character. Of course, in the flashback episode 6, we saw a little bit more of him, but there really wasn't a lot of depth to his character, except for that episode, and he really did a great job at that. Eric Lang also, I feel like he's not getting enough, buzz about him in this series as well. He did an amazing job as Lyle. He's been in Narcos. I've seen him in that, and I didn't even recognize him in this. That's how good it was. The creators were able to do that. Ben Stiller able to do that, and Eric Lang played a great character as well. At times, maybe didn't know what was going on, of course, and just such a, you kind of feel sorry for him at the end of the series, and Eric Lang did a great job. So the performances are great in this series. That is something I believe they can pride themselves on. It was just incredible, all of the performances. And I didn't mention David Morse, but he was great too, don't get me wrong. I really didn't witness any bad performances. I mean, even some of the minor characters, they were really great. So really great stuff there. Next is the direction. The directorial debut for Ben Stiller on television. And this, you wouldn't, watching this and you didn't know Ben Stiller was making his debut as a director, I don't think you'd believe I don't think you'd believe someone if they told you that, because the direction in this series just is incredible. It really is. I mean, some of the greatest sequences of the year in television for me in this, especially in part 5, in episode 5, the first 8 minutes about of that episode. That's one of the best directed sequences I've seen all year. I really think. And he did an amazing job. He got some, really great shots in these last couple parts in the finale. Really great of the mountains and some really great kind of landscape stuff there. And yeah, I really loved the directing throughout the whole series. I really did. All the shots that he got, you could tell that it was kind of his debut, because there was a lot of, kind of different things that he was doing, kind of just to stay unique a little bit, and they really paid off. I really didn't, look at that and say, oh, well, I can tell that he's, trying to be different. It didn't really work. I really think his whole direction throughout the series worked for me. And again, another highlight is the very first episode, the opening of the very first episode, where they do a whole panorama circle, actually, of that room and Joyce Mitchell. Just from that point on, that scene, the very first scene, I was like, okay, this is going to be good. So direction was great, and like I said, you really could not tell that this was his debut. He did an amazing job, and I'm sure that he'll be directing some stuff in the future after this one. Really great stuff. So then let's talk about some characters. So Joyce Tilly Mitchell. So this was she's a very interesting character, first of all. Of course, there was some drama, off the screen. Of course, is the real Joyce Mitchell. Of course, she's in prison still. basically angry at Ben Stiller for not portraying her in the way that she would have liked, or as she claims, not showing the truth of the situation. But anyways, I mean, regardless of that stuff, she was a very manipulative person. And we see that even in the very last scene of this series. Ben Stiller does a great job with that kind of take that we see, that long take of her. Also, the long take at the end of episode 6 showed this as well, just how manipulative she can be. And ultimately, in this story, I mean, she was the one getting manipulated at times, or is it the other way around? I mean, that's a big question too. I think to an extent at least, I think she was the one getting manipulated by Matt, mainly I would say Richard Matt, but also David Sweat, as they recognized her, true feelings for, I would say, even both of them, but mainly Sweat, and really took advantage of her. And she was actually, kind of conned by them a little bit, even though she didn't end up picking them up, of course. She did make the right decision there. But throughout the series, and she packed her bag, right? She packed her bag. She was going to go, and that's just another, sign of that she was really manipulated here, even though she is a manipulative person, especially towards Lyle, we saw, especially in episode 6, where, she had this whole deviant plan to get back her son and get custody, and all that. So Joyce Mitchell is definitely an interesting character. Like I said, Patricia Arquette gave a great performance as her, and you know what, it's just it's crazy, right? And again, we may never know the full details, the full facts of what actually happened, but I think the show did a great job of kind of showing at least somewhat of a true kind of portrayal of her. And so, yeah, just a crazy ending for her as well. And she gets 7 years in prison for her part in it. So it really was a person event, right? It's a 3-person escape, because without her, they wouldn't, of course, been able to cut through their walls and eventually escape. So there you go. Or even the pipe. So, without that, they would not be able to. So now let's talk about Sweat and Matt. So I really love the ending of the finale where, I forget the detective's name, but she comes in and is talking to David Sweat, of course, after he's been captured in the hospital there. And she asks him, is he your friend? And he says, I don't know. He really kind of has to think about that for a second. And the dynamic between these two characters throughout the whole series was really captivating at all times, because Matt's kind of the crazy, off the hinge guy, and Sweat, this was really shown right in the last 2 episodes here of the series. And Sweat is kind of that level-headed guy, and he genuinely wanted to survive. I mean, Richard Matt was very careless, like I said. Kind of the total opposite of David Sweat. And it was very interesting dynamic, especially in the last 2 episodes. So were they really friends? I mean, that's a great question. In my opinion, I don't think so. I think Richard Matt, of course, had the original idea, right? So he came to David Sweat and came up with the idea. But we look back, I mean, David Sweat did all the work. Richard Matt was there sleeping in his bunk when David Sweat did all the work and went through this whole plan. And it really is interesting then, of course, as David Sweat eventually leaves him. He ditches him, right? At the side of the road there where Matt is about to go up and, shoot a cop possibly and take his car. And, obviously Sweat realizes that he can't be around him anymore or else he's going to die. He's going to get caught. So I really don't think that they were friends. I think they were both benefiting from each other throughout. I think David Sweat also benefited from being friends with Matt in prison, of course. And of course, Matt benefited from him because he was his way out along with Joyce. So I think Matt was really the chief manipulator here in this situation of both Sweat and Joyce, and Mitchell. But anyways, very interesting stuff, and I love that they brought up that question. Were you guys friends or whatever? And why would you leave a friend? And that's a fundamental question, right? Is if they were really friends, why would Sweat have left Matt there? And I did like the part there where he hears on the radio though that Matt was killed, and he does have quite a big, quite a big reaction there to it. But I think that reaction is more about now he knows that they're closing in on him. I don't think it was as much about that he was, sad or, mad for them killing Matt. And so anyways, that's, a great thing to debate as well throughout this series. And just again, the relationship between them, really awesome throughout. And of course, that's thanks to Paul Dano and Benicio del Toro. Some great chemistry on screen for them as well. So there you go. So now let's talk about the flashback episode. Looking back, I mean, at the time, after the episode, I was like, no current times at all in that episode. And about halfway through, I was like, okay, let's get on with it. But looking back at it, it was quite well done and very needed. The way it went down is because because episode 5, right? Episode 5, they escape. And so up until episode 5, I think really, at least for me, you're rooting for these guys, right? Even though they're both killers, one, at least, well, in the show, of course, they kind of debated a little bit whether he actually, did kill the police officer, but that was his charge, I suppose. And then Matt, of course, chopped up some guy and killed him. And so these are killers, but we still are rooting for them up until episode 5, or at least I was. And I really, looking back at it, the flashback episode was so great, because if we didn't get that flashback episode and we didn't see for ourselves what they did and what they're capable of, we would have had a total different reaction to the ending of the story, and I feel like that wouldn't have been right. So really great job looking back at it. I think this flashback episode was very needed. I still would have liked to see, just the last scene or some of them discovering that they're gone at the prison. Something like that would have been cool, but it is what it is. An amazing flashback episode it was. So it really showed us what these people, Matt and Sweat in particular, of course, were really capable of. And again, really then provided some great background for episodes or part 7 and 8 here with this finale. So that, that was great. So finale episode. Wow, I mean, it had me on the edge of my seat. Sorry, part 8 I'm referring to. Had me on the edge of my seat the whole episode. That whole sequence with Richard Matt, you knew, especially if you've done some research, he dies. And I did. And, even just watching it, though, I was on the edge of my seat. I was so anxious. It's like, when is this going to happen? And it was just a very long sequence there before he actually finally did get shot. And really great stuff. Direction, again, really amazing. Some great, angles, some great visuals there, and just some really great suspense building up. So that was really great. And still with David Sweat, I mean, was he going to get to Canada? That was kind of the whole question, and he was really trying to get there. He ends up just coming short, just the town before Canada. So, whether he would have been safe in Canada or not, who knows? They definitely probably would take a lot longer to look for him. But let's just acknowledge, 23 days. I mean, that's pretty significant. And for him to be out there, as the days kind of added up, I was like, are they going to be catching them? It's still building that suspense. So really great stuff. I am glad that they combined the parts together. I feel like part 7 would have been a little bit lackluster if that was just for the week. But the fact that they combined them together, it was just really great. Great way to wrap up things here. At part 7 was kind of a bridge, I would say, to part 8. And then part 8 gave us that great ending. So those are my thoughts there on the finale. Really great stuff here. And the ending was kind of, again, with that flashback episode, we understand who these characters are, and we're not, rooting for them as much as we were in, say, episode 5. And so at least we kind of, understand the story a little bit more and know that background, and know that these guys definitely deserve to get caught and put back in jail. And, Matt, of course, is killed. But anyways, so let's get now to my 2 things that I loved about this series. So, number 1, I already went over it, but the great performances. I mean, they really sold this show. Without these performances, with this kind of slow story, I don't think it would have been as effective, and these performances were amazing. Like I said, already talked about it, but they were really great. So there you go. My number 2, the second thing I loved, was the slow burn. I see a lot of people complaining about this, but I actually really loved it. That's what made episode 5 so great, right? Is everything led up to that moment where they get out of that sewer grate, or even the moment when David Sweat, peeks his head out of the sewer grate on the street. Amazing moments, even chilling moments for us audience members, us viewers, and it wouldn't have been that if we didn't have that huge slow burn lead up until that point. And also the finale wouldn't have been effective either. So I did really like the slow burn and the pacing of it. And it was consistent pacing. I mean, even throughout the end of the finale, it was consistent. It was a slow burn of a story, slowly irking to the end. And it was great. I really did enjoy that. I know some people may not agree there, but I did really enjoy that. I do like slow burns a lot, though. That's just something I like and I'm willing to see. So, really great. I mean, for a binge show, maybe this wouldn't be the best, but for a week-to-week show, I just felt like it felt really, really great and made the story feel a little bit more authentic too, because it was 23 days this manhunt, and if you were to just show these, this ending just like that, it just wouldn't feel as real and as effective there. So, one thing that I didn't like about the series, and it was hard to think of this, but ultimately I think you could have done this series in 6 parts, and it would be even better. Like I said, I love the series as it is, but I think in 6 parts it would have been even better. I do love the slow burn, but I just feel like you even could have put that in 6 episodes. And you really could have combined part 7 and 8 into an hour-long episode, or maybe just a little bit more instead of kind of 2 parts here. I just felt like I said, part 7 was kind of a bridge to the finale, which, inevitably was, part 2, or part 8. So, anyways, I really think you could have fit this into 6 parts, and maybe it would have been a little bit more captivating in that sense, with being on the edge of your seat, right, for every episode, because the pacing would be still slow, right, but it would just be a little bit more condensed, and I just feel like it would have been even better than it was. But that's one of the only negatives I can think of, honestly. I mean, this series was amazing. It was really great. So there you go. So my favorite episode for the series, I gotta go with part 5. I did love the flashback episode, looking back at it, and I love the finale episode, but episode 5 was there for me. Just seeing them escape the very last few minutes there of that episode, just seeing their faces, their reactions, that they're finally out, right? They're finally out of the prison, and they have 5 hours before anyone finds out where they are. That moment there is just enough. That was an amazing episode. And like I said, the beginning sequence to that episode is amazing. Really great directing there as well. So anyways, let me know what your favorite episode of the series was. If you've seen the whole thing, I'd love to hear your thoughts. So anyways, guys, that'll just about do it for my review of Escape at Dannemora miniseries on Showtime. Like I said, love to hear your thoughts on it. Hope you guys enjoyed this review, and let me know if you agree with me, you disagree with me. Love to discuss the series with you. So we're looking forward to other things that Ben Stiller does in the future, and this whole cast. I will be looking forward definitely to anything Patricia Arquette, Benicio del Toro, Paul Dano, Eric Lang. I mean, all these guys were just amazing. So great way to wrap up 2018 for sure. So anyways, guys, again, thank you so much for watching this review. Thank you so much for the support on the channel. Do really appreciate it. Really great stuff, views, subscribers, comments, likes, everything. Really great interaction and support. So I do really appreciate that as well. So anyways, guys, again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in my next review. Now that you know it's nowhere, what's to stop you